Hi, I'm Stephen Budden. When I broke my neck and crawled out of the ocean, I no longer believed in accidents. And the reason for that because I felt some sort of guidance. Before that incident, I had been a fine artist, struggling, starving, impoverished, broke, sick, and nearly dead, right where the power systems want you to be. So when I slammed into the ocean floor, I was awakened in such a way that little else could have done that. And once when I broke my neck, I felt, oh, universe or God or guidance was trying to do that. The demiurge. I just couldn't hear it, so it had to get louder and louder and louder. And that's what I often work with clients on. Like, how loud does a message have to get before you listen? Now, I've found a client. A client came to me talking about her issues in love with a narcissistic ex-husband who kept kind of haunting her. And when I saw her, I immediately knelt down to touch her feet. And as I did this, I started to break up the congestion, open the feet, find the ground. And what happened was an outpouring of tears. She was able to grieve her lost parents that were lost when she was a child. I didn't even know this part of the story. Just, why is this outpouring of tears here? And when I worked on the left foot, her mother had been lost, so she talked all about that. A few sessions later, the right foot, the right is the father side of the body. Her father had been lost. I didn't know that either. However, as we cleared those channels, love was able to bloom. Love was able to bloom. Now, I say that because when you're a child, you can't always listen to the whispers of destiny, as we say. How can you? You don't have the context yet. When you're an adult, you can. However, sometimes it takes an objective observer to come from outside and say, hey, your feet are all bound up. Let's find the earth again. Or the equivalent. Another client, I touched her shoulder and there was this outpouring of tears. What is going on? In fact, I was kind of pulling on her shoulder just intuitively like this. And she was short, so I was pulling upward. And just, I could feel the shoulder holding, and then when it released this flood of tears. And again, I asked, what's happening? And what was happening, her father had passed away years ago and she hadn't grieved. And when I did this pulling motion, it was where she had stored all of that grief. Her father pulled her once crossing the street, and that's where she stored the memory of her father. We think it's in the mind. Notice I say the mind instead of my mind because, mind is a vast collective and I wish I knew what it was. It's like a mosaic. So the mind, the brain we think it's in. However, think about that story about when I pulled that shoulder and that memory was released and that grief was accessed finally after decades. We sometimes need someone objective to say, hey, release your shoulder because you miss your father. Nobody can come and say that unless they're some sort of clairvoyant. They can only come and guide you to that. That's why, intuition will bring us to the peripheries of that. And then we kind of pull the shoulder and boom, something happens where a piece of us is woken up that was asleep. That's what happened to me when I broke my neck. This is where I learned some of this stuff. Like in the Fool card in the tarot, that's the first card, that's where you start. The Fool is walking kind of jovially toward a cliff's edge, holding a rucksack with a stick over the back, and the stick cuts off the neck. So there's a beautiful book called The Zelator about meeting an awakened being and this training and all this occult and esoteric materials. And this is where I read this assessment of that card. The Fool starts out with the head and the body separate. So part of the journey of moving up in the cards to becoming, a person of power and integrity is to bring the mind and the body together. Break off this false separation. So that's what I saw that as. One of the things I saw that as. I slammed my head into the ocean floor, into the sand. Another client said, oh, you were burying your head in the sand. You weren't willing to see. Any metaphor you like. So, not any metaphor you like. However, there are layers of things that work for the particular assessment. The point is, it got me out of this art ego path and onto this path of healing. And as I learned to find my body, and I felt my feet, and I felt my knees, and I felt my hips, and I came alive. I fractured my wrist snowboarding the other week in Vermont. As I came online, I realized that I could do this with others through touch, as I have outlined, and through conversation. Sometimes through listening, like the opposite of conversation, the listening without interrupting, the asking questions, the being open like a child is open to the world, to this story. Because you'd be amazed that, like, when someone tells the story, someone that you know, you go to them with all this judgment. Oh, this story again. I've heard this story. The reason they're telling you again is because they haven't felt heard yet. Sometimes an objective listener can listen, oh, I finally feel heard. You heard my story for the first time in my life. Some people have never even had a living conversation. Ever. Some people have never been alive while making love or on a date, or especially in the land of digital distraction where we're all numbed out and there's dopamine trickling and everything is like 10% in and 90% what? Where? Who? So we need to work more diligently now to become living humans in this digital world of madness and healing in a mad world. And you can do it. Healing from within. The Orthodox Christians say that you pray and you pray for healing, and everything else is like this forbidden occult practice. And I resonate with the Christian journey in religion, and I also think you put forth effort. So where does that put one? And every account of Jesus and his ministry, he also put forth effort in different ways. And if you read like the Aquarian Gospels of Jesus Christ, or listen to Dolores Cannon, They Walked with Jesus, or Jesus in the Essenes, you'll see that this was a human working through, a divine human, a divinely inspired human working through these protocols, these systems, these learnings, these travelings, etc., to figure out A, what it meant to be human, and B, what it meant to show people how to be human, to demonstrate it, and to heal people and to lift them out of suffering. So everyone who's healing anything, who's working with people to heal anything, dances in some ways with that archetype. You can see that archetype, that Christ archetype, that Jesus archetype, even earlier in the sun god archetypes, right? The sun, you watch the sun. There's sun gazing, our Father in heaven, the Son in heaven. It's all the solar logos is what was in the burning bush that descended into humanity in this perfect confluence of this purified enough biology in order to hold this energy. So think about it in any way you like. I think the power and beauty in healing and awakening is that that's what you are here for. You are here to come alive as you can be. And the powers that be, there are the powers that be in layers. So as like William Cooper or David Icke writes about, the top of the pyramid maybe knows a lot. And the 3 tiers down, they don't know what's going on at the top. They're just trickling down orders. So most people don't have the whole picture. And every teaching, Laura Knight Yazdick channels the seas. I'm not sure how you say her last name. And she asked them once, are you accurate? The seas are like these star beings that give her info as she asks questions, kind of like Seth or Ra or these other people, things that people channel. And they said, we're 70% accurate. She's like, what? At best, they're 70% accurate. And they're telling her the channel. And that is a cult because she started it using a Ouija board and then she could access it without it, etc. However, if you think about that, that's pretty profound. Like, every teaching from every source has some truth and some untruth. The reason I'm bringing this up is because people get so fixated on, like, this is my system, this is my thing. One of the reasons I have been able to heal people is because I came through a non-system. Like, I learned this thing from this woman who'd invented it, and there was no other practitioners, really, and then she passed away, and when people said, what's your modality? Because a modality is like a way of being fixed in things. It's like if you're a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and you learn about these psychological issues and everything's incurable. Or you're a doctor and cancer is incurable. You do one of two treatments and they cause often more harm than good. And the 5-year survival rate's like almost nothing for most cancers. So paint a rosy glow on the medicine seems to have been co-opted at some point. The reason I mention that is because being within a system, you adopt the system's limitations. This is why, like higher education, during COVID, we saw that like the people that had the highest education were the most brainwashed because they're like, I am a specialist in this. Let them be specialists in that, and I will do what they tell me. Well, that was dumb, right? So someone who's got 4 PhDs can be a complete moron because they're saying, I'm a specialist in like ancient Aramaic, you be a specialist in mRNA technology, and we'll somehow meet in the middle. And that's how the world had been for a while, and everyone being fragmented. And when you go to treat your body, it's this little system. You go treat the liver, you give it a medication, throws the rest of the body out, but at least the liver's okay. So this falling apart into pieces, it's part of being wounded. Remember the archetype, the tarot card of the fool, the head and the body separate? Look at like the proliferation of, oh, you can eat meat and heal. I have a book, you can eat fruit and heal. You can eat, one or the other will kill you, and you can find the endless evidence on either one because it depends on where you're putting your attention. And sometimes those are mind-based systems. They don't include like the spirit, the emotion, the intuition. There are 3 body centers. Are you approaching each topic with all of them? Because if you are, you cannot really be duped, though some people still are duped. So bringing this back to wholeness and oneness, that's the beauty and the power. Once, when I was about 30, someone was touching my feet in one of these like vibrational healing therapy classes. And really, we would touch the parts of the blockages and ask questions, and sometimes just touch it and be silent. But I just felt my whole body come online. Because if your feet are disconnected, there's these conduits. And if part of you is disconnected, you feel incomplete. So the only time I've ever felt complete in my life was after I had these feet reconnected. It's hilarious and ridiculous because I'd been trying for 10 years to do Zen meditation until feeling complete. And yes, you raise your level of consciousness. However, the feet weren't connected. Nobody told me that. I didn't know that. Now I do. Thank you. So that's what I do with clients. That's how we sometimes make 10 or 20 years of progress over therapeutic talking by just touching a certain body part where the mystery has left some sort of gap. So I want to share this so that you can find healing. You can go to some massage therapist, and if you put your mind in the right state, no one really knows what I'm talking about. They always think they know. I've seen hundreds of clients, and they're always like, I've never had this. I've been a somatic therapist for 20 years and never had this. So you've never had this. Beware the mind saying, oh, I kind of know what this is. It's kind of like cranial sacral. It's kind of like visceral treatment. It's kind of like Chi Ne Song or whatever. It's kind of like, yes, it has overlapping parallel relationships with some things and even is informed by some of those things. However, it's not those things. And the reason my mentor that passed away, she was like very at odds with the world and the systems. So her system is like a very effective but very difficult to entrain and replicate and even perform. Like I went to hundreds of people went through this school I went through, and I don't know any that took it on in practice because it's hard. And you have to carry this like profound faith that someone's going to heal and transform with you, this profound faith that you're there for a reason, this profound faith that you are in this world to help people transform, heal. If they can't heal, you ease their pain. If they can't heal, they're physically, it's emotionally. And you heal them, you work to heal their systems physically so that emotionally they can feel more joyous and resonant with the world and enjoy the spring, etc. So it's the tail end of winter here, and this is when Christ comes in the form of the Easter. So that's also a story of the seasons, right? You sit through an endless winter, and then this Christmas tree is like holding this frequency, these twinkling lights, this sort of magic. Oh, the sky goes dark, the shortest days of the year, it's like this barren landscape. And then boom, Like there's Easter and there's spring. There's these fertility ideas, and all life comes alive in resplendent color and beautiful technicolor. And I want you to enjoy that. So if 10% of your awareness is on the moment and 90% on the phone or waiting till you get to some other screen, how are you going to break free of that? You will. I'm just asking, how are you going to? I put together a little workbook called the Journey Book, which can help move you through some of these stages. I'll put a link in the comments or a link in the description. You're beautiful, powerful, and brave. You can heal. And moreover, we need to move toward what we need to do in this world. Like what have you done that you wished you didn't do, and what have you left undone? AI, fear mongering, wars, the death of the media, medical corruption. These are all trying to pull you off the course of what I just talked about. So don't let them. You can heal, and you will heal. So I'll be here. Other people will be here. Reach out to me, reach out to other people. Keep finding ways to heal. Like I said, there's information, truth, and fiction in every system, in every person, whether they think so or not. The problem is most people think everything I think is right? And then 2 years later, their opinion is the opposite. And moreover, people that are following other people, everything they say is right. And they'll say some crazy outlandish thing next to something that's completely logical and obvious. And like, oh, this other outlandish thing must be right. Like, no, it isn't. 70% true. Maximum. So, even if you think about the Bible, it was like tampered with by all these people over centuries. So if it contains truth, it seems to, it also contains fictions, falsehoods, agendas. That's everything. So welcome to the world where we have to discern and create our truth for ourselves. Don't be content with the story of others. Unfold your own myth, to paraphrase Rumi. And I love you. Follow, subscribe. I'll try to post more. I'll see you on the other side. Thank you.